They finally announced the full CPT 2019 schedule and details. But it's nice that they actually announced something, right? It had been a very long time since Capcom Cup with no communication about CPT events, no Season 4 announcements for the characters. Kage dropped a relatively minor patch came out, and there was just like no communication regarding what was going on with the game. So it was we had a weird dry spell. So it's nice to hear some official response from Capcom about what's going down. So CPT 2019 is looking pretty standard at this point, but they did change a few things. Like the biggest changes are they added a new tier, or they expanded the Evo tier of event to 2 other events, and they renamed it Super Premier. So that's like a new tier of event besides just ranking and premieres. They adjusted the points slightly, and they kind of made the regional finals simpler, which is funny because they've been working on, I feel like every single announcement they say the regionals finals format was confusing to players and fans. I feel like we've seen this exact line every single year. And they also trimmed down the number of events. I'm not sure if it's trimmed down overall, but they gave like Latin America its first premier event, and there's a little bit less of the North America ranking events, and they got rid of like 50% of the online events, it feels like. So they've been adjusting a few things here. But the biggest change by far is definitely the point structure. You know, they still have the returning Capcom Cup champion. You still have 26 players from the leaderboards, and then the remaining from the regional finals. What they don't specify in here, I don't think, is what happens if the winner of the regional finals is already qualified by points. So they don't really go into that level of detail. I plan to go to as many events as possible, and I'm interested in going to all the premieres I can. So Game Over, the Dominican Republic premiere, that's a possibility. I have to plan it out. They also made First Attack. They upgraded that from a ranking to the regional final premiere for Latin America. That one's definitely on my to-go-to list. So let's talk about how they adjusted the points. So one of the primary adjustments, I think, is to rankings, because last year they had 1 point. So this, if you look at this chart, it's a pretty similar format to the year before. But what they did is they replaced 5, used to be 1 in 2018. So now there is no way you can get only 1 point, because that point of pride, that's what they called it, and the explanation for why they would give 7th place at a ranking 1 point. It was a point of pride for players who don't normally get onto the CPT leaderboard, like Justin Wongs and Punks and Knuckle Dews. So now they bumped that up to 5, which is nice. I mean, come on, dude. You'd have to get 5 top 8s to close a 5-point gap. That's crazy. I'm so glad they adjusted that. This is almost like 2017 points, except for 4th place is still nerfed. So in 2017, 4th place for a ranking used to be 40 points. So that's down to 20, but they slightly buffed 3rd. 3rd used to be 70 points compared to, I think, 2018 as well. And 2nd and 1st. 1st got an overall buff, and 2nd remained the same. So here, let's go ahead and compare that actually. So on the right here, this is actually 2018. Ignore that it says 2017. I pulled this directly from the 2018 announcement. This is 2018. So if you see here, the chart's a little bit different. It's almost the same. 3rd got crazy buff from 2018. It was only 40 points for 3rd. That's nuts. 70 for 2nd. So this is almost like the 2017 placing. If people don't remember, they completely nerfed ranking events in 2018. So now they're really rewarding you for placing the top 3. They also buffed how many points you get for 1st. So ranking events are a lot more prominent right now, which I think is good, since they also trimmed down on the number of ranking events by cutting the online events. There's only 1 online per region rather than 2. I think that's good that they buff rankings to make them relevant. I really kind of wish they put 40 for 4th. I don't like the jump between 5th being 10, 4th 20, and then 3rd being 80. I feel like 4th you should get rewarded a bit more than just 10 extra points than 5th. It's such a massive jump from 4th to 3rd. Like, there's only 20 difference between 3rd and 2nd, but 4th and 3rd, Mike Ross would not be happy. But top 3 is definitely heavily rewarded, which is good because third place and last year was also kind of a slap in the face. And for premieres, it's a similar situation where the lower rankings I think got buffed. So 33rd got buffed to 5, so you can never earn only 1 point now. 25th still 10, 9th is 70, 7th is 100, 5th is 130, 4th 160. So it's all the same, except for 2nd they gave 350. Okay, so the only difference between premieres is they buffed 2nd place, which I think is good because look at the difference between 1st and 2nd. They way too heavily prioritized 1st place rather than scaling it. 2nd place in 2018 got 270 and 1st got 700. Now 2nd place gets 350 and 1st gets 700. It's still a significant difference. You're not first, you're last was kind of the mentality in 2018. Either you're first or you can grind every single event. So I like that change. I like spreading out the points a little bit more. There shouldn't be such a steep jump where if you get 2nd place, you feel like you totally blew your chance at getting into the CPT. The Evo points are totally adjusted here. So Evo really actually shook up the CPT leaderboard a lot midway through the season, and I think Capcom took notice of that because the lower placings at Evo, you actually got a lot of points. I mean, 33rd is 70 points, which is I think where I placed in 2018, so I got a huge boost in points from getting 33rd. So 129th is actually buffed with 5, but it starts to quickly scale once you hit even 49th. 49th used to get 40, now it's 30, so it starts to scale. 33rd is only 40 points, it's a 30-point drop. 25th, 50, it used to be 100. Getting 25th at Evo was better than getting 2nd at a ranking. That's actually kind of crazy. I do want Evo to be really heavily inflated because depending on the path you take, it's definitely the hardest tournament to progress in. However, you can also have easy brackets. Like honestly, I had a pretty easy path because there were some upsets in my way leading up to the matches I was supposed to play. Like I didn't have to play Sako and I didn't have to play some other high-level player because there was an upset earlier on in the bracket. So that helped me get to 33rd. So that can happen where you get an easy path. Or you can be like Shine in 2018. And Shine went to losers early and had to basically win like 3 premieres worth of matches with the people he had to beat. And he only got like 25th. He beat people like Sako and a few others and he got 25th. So he'd only get 50 points for that this year, whereas last year he got 100. 13th was better than winning a ranking. I kind of agree with that. I think it's a little bit too nerfed in some ways. I agree with the slight nerf. Sometimes the brackets are kind of wonky until top 8. That happens from time to time. People get floated. So I'm undecided on that. But either way, extremely nerfed. 9th used to be 200, now it's only 100. 7th used to be 270, equivalent to getting 2nd at a premiere. Now it's 130, equivalent to getting 5th. 5th place is 350. When you start nerfing the top 8 at Evo, I think that kind of hurts. Now 5th at Evo is equivalent to getting 4th at a premiere. I don't think that's at all accurate, but what do I know? I think there is definitely a lot of wiggle room between 5th place being 160 and 1st place being 1,000, where you could have scaled this a little bit more. Scaled it upwards where people who got 5th were a little bit closer to 1st in terms of points. Yeah, 4th place is equivalent to 3rd at a premiere. 3rd is 300, 100 more than 4th place. 2nd, so getting 3rd at Evo is worse than getting 2nd at a premiere. I thoroughly disagree with that. Getting 3rd at Evo, that means you made it to a finals Evo match. You made it to the end of a bracket at Evo. If you make it to the end of a bracket at Evo, you should be rewarded more heavily than 2nd place at a premiere. I didn't notice that. 1st place is 1,000 when it used to be 1,750. That's pretty much seeding at that point. If you get 1,000 points, you're definitely going to make it into the Capcom Cup finals. But your seeding, you might not instantly jump to number 1 seed. Because it's pretty much a guaranteed in, but then your seeding, you still have to be consistent to get your seeding. And the other factor to consider with this is no longer just the Evo category, kind of like I've been phrasing it. I've been treating this like it's just Evo. The big change for this season is they've added 2 other events that are on the same level as Evo. So Evo is now in the Super Premier category, and there are 3 total. and 2 of them in North America, so people are kind of pissed about that. So Super Premier, we got EVO around at the same time in August. 1 for Japan, didn't they specify? A Japan Premier, okay, they haven't specified what it's going to be. And then the North America Regional Final is going to be Super Premier, which is kind of funny because they're doing a similar structure where the regional finals have a premiere attached to them, like in 2018. So the day before the regional final takes place, there's an open premiere. But for North America, for some reason, that one's Super Premiere. So I can tell that people from other regions are going to feel a little bit jaded. It's an open premiere, so anyone can go to it, but it's in North America, so obviously it's easier for Americans to travel to it. So it makes sense that they reduce the number of points that EVO would provide, but EVO is still EVO, man. Just because you slap all these points onto those events doesn't mean it's going to be just as difficult as a tournament. The turnout is not going to be anywhere near the same. So I don't really agree with creating unannounced, unnamed events without a schedule, without a location, and saying they're just as difficult and deserve the same amount of points as EVO. I mean, you can't tell me that the North America Regional Final first place is just as prestigious as EVO first place. It's just not. If they're going to do this system with 3 Super Premieres, I get why they scaled it down a little bit. If you're like a pro who actually goes to every event, this is for you. You have multiple opportunities to cash out. You don't have to just get one good run. You have like 3 opportunities. And ranking events. So one big thing about ranking events is how they've changed which ones are ranking events in North America. April Annihilation, what I hear is that this is like the new Big E event, because if you notice, Summer Jam is not on here. So Summer Jam was there in 2017 and 18, I know for sure. That's no longer here. And I think the overall number is the same for offline ranking events. The DreamHack shifted around. Texas Showdown, Northwest Majors, Toryukin, and Defend the North are returning. But what has changed is the online events for each region. So there's East and West in North America. There's only one event online. Oh, no, they added a new one. Latin America West, Latin America South, Latin America East. So they added a South region. That's good for Latin America. Rather than just giving more events to each region, they're dicing up the regions a little bit more thoroughly, which is good, because if you watch any of the Latin America CPT online events, they were shit shows. People were protesting those events. I mean, they straight up protested playing against certain players for being that laggy. I was watching one of the top 8s, and a guy just sat there and just let himself get killed. And then in the chat, he says, "I refuse to play this guy for being this laggy." And they actually kicked the guy out of the tournament for lagging in the middle of the top 8. He got DQ'd. Online is just not ready for what they're doing. So I kind of agree with them scaling back the number of online events they're doing and dicing up the regions more thoroughly. However, at the same time, I feel like it's kind of missing its point. I feel like the point of the online events is to provide more opportunities to players who don't get to travel so much. So by having less of those events, they're not really giving that opportunity unless you win. I think if you win a CPT online event, you're pretty much guaranteed to be in the regional finals, even if that's your only tournament that you get to go to. So that's how it was in 2018. Like Flash Metroid got no regional points, but he won the first online event and he was guaranteed in the regional finals. So if you're an online warrior, you got one shot. You better win. So for some reason, Middle East is still considered Europe. So they added Middle East online, Europe East, Europe West. I don't know why Middle East is considered Europe, but basically this means that the regional finals are going to be more stacked for Europe, because this is going to have like Big Bird or Angry Bird is going to win this, and then they're going to be in the Euro regional finals. Australia, oh, they added online to Australia for Asia, and then Asia East. Okay, so they're adding more regions all across the board for online. So here's the other adjustment they made is the regional finals. How they used to work was they had an open premiere where the day before the regional finals, anyone could compete in the tournament, and it gave you premier points. So if you got 25th, you'd get the premier 25th placing to your global leaderboard points. However, if you were also from the region where the tournament was being held, like if I went to the NA regional finals and I got first place, I would have gotten both 700 global premier points on my global placing, but my ranking placing would also shoot up by 150 points, which meant that if you weren't already qualified, the day of the regional or the day before the regional final and you're competing in the open premiere, you could possibly knock somebody out of 8th place and get yourself into the regional finals the day before, which was both bad and good. I mean, if you remember what happened at regional finals this year, CJ Truth won the open premiere and that got him into the regional finals. I don't think he was qualified before, but at the same time, it's not that hype because if someone nudges their way into the regional finals the way CJ did, he won the premiere. So he basically already guaranteed himself a spot in Capcom Cup. So even though he got into the regional finals, it was just double dipping at that point because it didn't matter if he won the regional final or not, which he happened to get second in. He went pretty far, all the way to the end. But it didn't matter if he won or not because he already won the premiere. So the story building didn't really make sense for having it apply to both leaderboards. And also it really sucked if you were in 8th place on the leaderboard and you didn't do good in the open premiere and then someone just happened to get in front of you. Then you went to that whole tournament and you didn't even get to play in the regional finals. So that system had a lot of flaws. So they just got rid of that. Basically, there's just 2 separate events. There's a premiere, which anyone can enter, and then the next day is the regional finals. So that weekend, if you're not in the top 8, you're not going to be in the regional finals. So anyone who's qualified at that point can comfortably go in and know they're going to play on Sunday. The other thing is the money. So they announced that there's going to be $600,000 of a prize pool for this, and I wasn't sure how much that really was compared to the years before because this is not for one tournament. This is for the entire tour. So if you don't know how the CPT payments work, there was a certain amount of bonus money given to the tour winners or the top 8 placers from Capcom themselves. So if you got top 8 at a premiere, it's only for premieres, not for rankings. If you got top 8 at a premiere, you would get the standard split of the pot money where everyone paid in, and that's controlled by the person running the tournament, the tournament organizers themselves. And then there was a standard payout for each placing in top 8 where Capcom would chip in the money. So there was a guaranteed minimum pretty much for every premiere. And so that's $600,000 guaranteed. And it doesn't specify how much first place for the Capcom Cup finals will get. I don't really know how much that's going to be, but if you look back to 2018, they mentioned pretty much the same thing. So this is the 2018 announcement. So nothing changed in the language. And the way the prize pools work is they take into consideration the crowdfunding they generate with the Pro Tour DLC packages, and that adds on to the Capcom Cup payout. So I think Itazan got Gashikun got $250K for getting first place, but it feels like less money. I was kind of surprised. I almost expected there to be a lot less money available for this tour because things have been feeling a little off regarding Capcom and Street Fighter V. They weren't communicating as much with us. The venue for 2019 was a lot smaller. The announcement after 2019 or 2018 was whack. They just announced Kage. They didn't give us any info on Season 4. There's no characters announced right now. We don't even know that we're going to get more characters in the game. So I'm genuinely surprised to see this language look the same. That's actually going to pan out to the same amount of money into players' pockets. I don't really know. I wonder if we're going to see 250K in someone's hands at the end of this season, because that feels unrealistic. I don't know where the money's coming from. I don't understand if this is profitable or not for Capcom. It's very hard to tell right now. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think it's looking solid. I like what they're doing with some of the point adjustment, and it's kind of it's like Season 4, it's a boring update. But it's not terrible. It's not bad. It's just kind of boring. Nothing crazy. Solid changes. It's a little slightly different seasoning.
That I'm displaying. This is